Well, I think the cases most people will know about are the witchcraft trials. Up until 1735, the supernatural event that we would see in trials were witchcraft trials and were the belief in magic. And they are as brutal, as cruel, as unjust, and as irrational as many people would suspect. It was an excuse to persecute women and men, but mainly women, unusual, old, those who we would probably consider neurodivergent now. It was a way of punishing them for not conforming. And so that's where I think it can be very, very dark. And then what you see is the cases reflecting the sort of supernatural beliefs of the time. So in the 1800s, you get ghosts cropping up as witnesses. Now, this was at a time when you saw a huge emergence of things like Gothic horror. And so people believed in ghosts. You had Gothic horror, you had the Penny Dreadfuls, people believed in ghosts. And so people did things. For example, they became afraid in haunted houses or in haunted places of ghosts, and they accidentally assaulted real people thinking that it was ghosts. And then what I find really interesting is then in the 1920s, you see the emergence of the spiritualist movement in cases. Why is that? World War I and World War II, a lot of people die. A lot of people want to speak to those that they have lost. And there's also this huge emergence of technology. So you have cameras, you have recording devices. What does that allow people to do? Claim to be able to contact and speak to spirits. Where that happens, people are going to get upset when they're disappointed with what they hear, or they're going to get suspicious, and there are going to be fraud cases. And then what I find really interesting is that as you move into the 1960s and 70s, you start seeing the clairvoyant cases die away, and you start seeing the emergence of demonic possessions and people blaming demons for awful, awful acts. What does that coincide with? Society's absolute love of films like The Exorcist, The Omen. They almost happen simultaneously. So that's what I think you see in these cases. You see society becoming obsessed with some element of the supernatural, blaming behavior on it, and then having to go to court. And the courts having to sort of try and work out truth from myth in order to hold people accountable for their actions.